First and foremost, thank you everyone for joining our webinar. We're super excited. DraftWise is at an amazing turning point, and in today's webinar, we're going to show you a preview of our next generation product, which changes the way you're going to draft contracts forever. I'm joined in today's webinar by some of my colleagues. For those who don't know me, I'm James, CEO and co-founder of DraftWise. I started the company over 5 years ago and have a background in AI and as an engineer. I'm joined today by my colleague, Will Seaton. Many of you probably know him. Before DraftWise, Will and I worked together at Palantir, where he led Palantir's largest commercial US engagements before he went to Harvard for a graduate degree in AI. Also joining me is Scott Ball. Scott works on our product team and comes from both a legal tech and a big law background. He practiced at Oric on the real estate team and spent 4 years building legal tech solutions for transactional lawyers. Also joining me today is Tony, our general counsel and legal product architect. He has over 15 years of experience at top law firms like Latham, Skadden, and Wilson Sonsini, and 6 years of experience leading in-house legal teams. And on the agenda for today, we're going to cover a few things. First, we're going to spend just a few minutes talking about AI agents. I'm sure you've seen all the excitement that companies like Salesforce and Microsoft had with their announcements about agents. We're just going to spend a minute talking about what agents are and why they matter for today's conversation. Then we're going to get into the meat of the conversation. We're going to show you how we're going to change the future landscape of drafting and reviewing contracts. We're going to show you a product demo, and then finally we'll open up to your questions. So stay excited. We've got great content planned for you today. Now, before we dive in, I just want to reflect a little on how far we've all come with AI. The first time many of us saw ChatGPT, we went crazy. We thought, here's my term sheet, just do it for me. Or we gave it prompts like, read my emails and just do the markup and send it back to my client. Or even things like what you see here. Take a look at my contract and look at all my clients' notes, look at all the past deals we've done with them, and revise it accordingly. But the thing is, we quickly realized that these aren't realistic AI use cases, and then we've become much better, more sophisticated users of AI. So let's talk about that journey we've all taken together through applying AI. Here I have 4 distinct stages, roughly going back over the past 5 years about how AI has evolved. And you've probably lived and seen much of this, from LLMs to chatbots to retrieval augmented generation, and finally to today's era, which is agents. And I'm going to show you, not tell you, this evolution and how each step builds upon the weaknesses of the prior step. I'm going to show you by illustrating how the same prompt through all 4 pieces of these technology might respond. So before ChatGPT, probably before most of us really got hands-on with AI, we had LLMs, we had transformer architectures. And what I've done here is just shown you an example of how GPT-2, how a basic LLM might respond to a simple prompt. I was in Europe recently, and I was thinking, what are good restaurants within 20 minutes of Rome city center with gluten-free options? And now, you've probably heard of LLMs described as autocomplete systems on steroids. And for the earliest iteration of LLMs, that was definitely the case. So GPT-2 might respond with a sentence like this one. And you can see that my question ends with the words gluten-free options, and GPT-2 would respond with a sentence that feels and looks similar, but ultimately isn't helpful. The gist of it is, before GPT 3.5, before the frontier labs, before OpenAI trained these LLMs to act like chatbots, there was no conversation. They really just were autocomplete systems. Now enter GPT 3.5, ChatGPT, the time when LLMs exploded the world. And for the first time, we actually have question and answer. We have a conversation. I take the same question, I posed it to ChatGPT 3.5 a couple years ago when it first came out, and it responds with a reasonable answer. There are great restaurants in Rome that offer gluten-free options. Here are a few places. But here's the kicker. I searched for these places online. One of them doesn't exist, and the other one isn't 20 minutes from Rome city center. The problem with having a generative model come up with information it's been trained on is that it's prone to hallucination. And also because it's prone to hallucination, users don't really trust the system, nor should they, right? I don't know where it got its information. I don't know how reliable or confident it is in its responses. Now, being the practical technologists we are, we came up with a paradigm called retrieval augmented generation. So instead of having LLMs come up with answers on their own, what if we focus LLMs on summarizing information that we provide to them? What if we had a database of restaurant information and we do a semantic search on that database and maybe take the top 20 or top 100 most similar excerpts and provide that to the LLM? And then we say something like, don't come up with information on your own. Instead, read the information I've provided and summarize for me the most relevant parts, and even point me to those excerpts so I can examine them for myself and decide how reliable they are. So you can see from the response, it works pretty well. The restaurants it's listed are actual restaurant names, and they actually exist in Rome. But the problem with retrieval augmented generation is that it's limited to the knowledge that's actually present in the database. And also, if it doesn't retrieve enough information, I'll end up with incomplete responses. I'm sure many of you have experienced this. Now, that brings us to today's iteration of applied AI, which is AI agents. They've been integrated in a variety of places. For those who've used ChatGPT Enterprise, for those who've used Claude, for those who've used Perplexity, you've already used AI agents in your daily work. And what an agent really is just a similar progression of the technology we've seen so far. It uses a very similar philosophy to retrieval augmented generation. But what it does is gives the agent the ability to use tools analogous to what a human might use. Like if I were trying to find restaurants 20 minutes from Rome city center, I'd probably go to Google Maps, first search for restaurants within 20 minutes of the city center, and then pick a few options and search the reviews for the word gluten-free. You can see when we pose this query to the AI agent, it does something very analogous. It uses tools that we've provided it, such as the map tool and the web search tool. First, using the map tool to locate potential candidates, then using the web search tool to narrow those candidates down. This is the progression that we've seen and lived over the past 4 years with LLMs. So why am I talking about agents today and why do they matter? I just want to draw your attention to one thing. Agents use tools analogous to those that a human might use. I also want to point out that at DraftWise, we've spent the past 5 years building tools for human lawyers to draft and review contracts more efficiently, to understand the market, to understand your client positions, and to proofread your work. So let's talk about what I really want to talk about today, which is the product announcement. When ChatGPT was first announced, we looked at prompts like, do a first pass for me, figure out what my client cares about, and just do the work. Draft my contract for me, do a first pass, do a first markup. And any of you who try to do anything remotely similar to this prompt were probably disappointed in the output. The reality is that in practice, you couldn't do this. Now, before moving on to our product announcement, I want you to think about what if this actually worked? What if you could actually do this and it worked well? What would happen at your firms? How would that change training? How would you change the service you provide your clients if prompts like this could actually work? With that, I'm going to turn it over to Will because we have an amazing product announcement for you today, and I think it changes everything.
Thank you, James. I'm very excited to talk more about agentic drafting and how this can change the way your legal team works. But I think it is useful to talk about why we at DraftWise are most excited about this technology and how it impacts the mission that we've been trying to pursue since our founding. DraftWise changes how legal teams work. We were founded on the mission of using your own data and your own firm standards to help your lawyers better draft, review, and negotiate agreements. We have a couple key principles that we've been applying from the start, and that still impact how we're developing the product and working with our customers today. First, we believe that all tools need to be grounded in your own precedents in order to have accurate recommendations, useful comparisons, and to really power the unique advantages of your firm. From day one, we believed that precedent-based drafting is going to be the key advantage for your team. And as a result, we've built the knowledge database with the highest scale in the industry that allows you to analyze millions of documents for unique insights and key preferences for your clients and your business partners. Last year, we were one of the first to release AI-powered contract review, allowing you to immediately find issues in your agreement by applying your firm's standards and team playbooks against any new draft agreement that you're negotiating. We've got incredible feedback on the power of our revisions and our recommendations, and are laser focused on making sure that we're giving you the most accurate and most useful output. Lastly, we want to be able to do more on behalf of lawyers. We want to provide them with more insights, answer the questions that they really care about, and provide exactly the key help they need when drafting and reviewing agreements. We spend all of our time talking about how will this help the lawyer provide better services to their clients or business partners. And the more that we can retrieve from your data and provide to you, the more useful we will be and the better we will serve our mission. So since our founding, we've been working on problems in this space, building tools to help lawyers, trying to help them take the best advantage of their own data. And we've gotten really positive feedback from our customer base. There's just a few things that I want to highlight for you here. We want to help you access your best language instantly, right where you're already working within Microsoft Word. Our powerful search capabilities mean that our best contract language is quickly attainable and easily actionable inside Word at the time of drafting. These words from Bill speak exactly to our mission of making it easy to access the best resources right where you are, right when you need them. We want to help you draft faster and better, but with built-in quality control, making sure that you are able to share the standards that you define, the best practice, the best possible pursuit of your individual contract, your individual transaction, across the team and even outside of the legal team to your business partners. Cameron's quote here, talking about how easy it is to quickly access carefully curated precedents and institutional knowledge, speaks to our focus on helping you take advantage of your team's own experience for every deal that you work on. We want to deliver high-impact work in just minutes. We focus a lot on ensuring that we are providing value, not just from day one of using DraftWise, but continuously from there. So that 5 minutes using the DraftWise software is the most valuable 5 minutes you'd ever offer to a client. Getting on the phone, asking questions of your data, using DraftWise tools to provide insights to your client immediately. This is where we want to go with all of our tools. And this is why we're most excited about what the AI Associate can do. Let's go back to the dream that James mentioned. We want to revise the contract according to my client's notes and preferences, using our standard language for this client. We've built many tools that allow lawyers today to work on this dream, whether it's searching through millions of documents to find exactly the piece of language that you want that's most similar to your deal that you're currently working on, whether it's getting many results back and comparing them instantly, redlining against the draft document, analyzing the many options you have to pick the best. We've got these instant comparison tools built into DraftWise. Or whether it's running that automatic playbook against your contract, telling you where are the key legal issues, how does this contract score versus other ones from your past, how can you help to conform it to your preferred position. All of these are tools that lawyers use today that they benefit from, that they love, that they've shared really great feedback with. And so imagine now an AI associate who's been trained to use DraftWise, who can read, redline, research, and reason like your best team member, your best collaborator, the best partner that you want by your side when it's 11 p.m. at night and you need to finish a turn of a draft. This is what the technology that we are talking about today can do. This is going to be the next evolution of DraftWise, both as a company and as a platform. It transitions having useful legal tools to having an incredible partner seamlessly and intelligently helping you draft, review, and negotiate your contracts. It allows you to draft new precedent-based language in your own preferences and based in your own historic deals. It allows you to apply your firm standards in one click just at a request. Say, how does this compare against the standards that we've defined for this particular contract type or for this particular client? And it allows you to turn comments into contract red lines. So no longer do you need to work through step by step. what you have to do to mirror the client's requests. You can copy those into the AI associate, ask them to action this, and then review the work that it brings back to you. Confirm that it's high quality, meeting your own bar before sending it over to the client in response. What does turning your legal intent and your legal strategy into contract execution actually look like? Here's just a few examples of things that users are using the AI associate for today. They're asking it to apply red lines based on how we've handled this clause in the past 10 deals with this counterparty. This requires you to have access to the past 10 deals. It requires you to understand the counterparty. It requires you to be able to apply red lines and run comparisons all within a platform. And DraftWise is the only platform that can allow you to do that today. A second example, let me know if there are any seller reps in this agreement that I haven't given recently. This is allowing you to look through your recent deals, perform trend analysis, and ultimately draft new seller reps that you may be missing and insert them quickly into your contract. And lastly, our clients send comments by email. Please apply the red lines. This should be a quick and easy process to share your intent, to share the client's feedback into DraftWise and allow it to take the series of actions that it needs to make the actual revisions that the client is asking for. This all sounds pretty incredible, and I think it's going to have a real impact on the day-to-day of what lawyers can do, how well they can partner within their own teams as well as with their partners. But most importantly, it's going to allow them to produce higher quality output faster and provide better service to their clients. Ultimately, what people are for is the ability to provide high quality service and high quality advice. And I think DraftWise is really going to allow that with this new technology. Now, I want to turn it over to Scott to show you what this actually looks like in practice.
So I've been working with the associate daily, and it's completely changed the way that I interact with contracts. What I love about it is that I can take the thought that I have in my head as a lawyer about what I want to accomplish in the agreement, and I can give the associate that task in the same language that I'm used to thinking about it or explaining it to a colleague. I don't have to tell it how to execute. It will figure out a plan for me. It can access all of the data that it needs within my precedent or guidance notes, playbooks, in order to accomplish the task for me. We talked about a lot of examples of things that we can give the associate, and I want to highlight a few that I find really powerful. Here, I'm working on this SPA and I'm representing the seller, and I get a note from my client. It says, we just talked with the counterparty, Green Room. They asked for a no subsidiaries rep. Let's give them the same thing we did last time. So I can just copy this note and I can put it into the associate and just say, please revise my agreement based on the following note I received from my client. Paste it in and ship it off. This is actually manually a difficult task for me to accomplish. Right. I have to go through my DMS, searching most likely within the client and randomly opening documents until I find the most recent one that Green Room was the counterparty for. The counterparty is not likely to be metadata that exists in a document repository. So I'm going to have to look at entity names, agreement names, anywhere that I can find what that counterparty was. Not an easy task. And I'm going to spin my wheels for a long time. I'm going to do a lot of work that I don't enjoy doing just to find the agreement. Then I'm going to have to find the no subsidiaries rep that I want to include and figure out how to bring it in to the agreement that I'm working on. Lots of steps here, lots of work, and a lot of it is a great task for an agentic assistant that has access to my document repository and can drill down into documents to find things that exist beyond just the metadata that I have in my document repository. Here, it's gone through and located whether or not I have a representation dealing with subsidiaries and figured out we need to do this in a prior deal with Green Room. It's created a search plan to execute on it. And it's found the no subsidiaries rep, found the relevant deal, and asked me, do you want to include this in your document? It's even telling me where it wants to incorporate it. So I'm just going to say, yes, please proceed. And now it's going to go the extra step for me and actually revise my agreement to include this no subsidiaries rep that I've given in a recent document with this counterparty. And I've accomplished the task of doing what we did last time with 2 prompts in a minute. It's marked it up for me. It matches what I've done in prior greenroom SPAs, inserted to section 3.03. Also, it goes ahead and renumbers the following sections for me. Really nice, really powerful, something that I have to do manually today. There's no other way to do it. Look at another example. Now I'm looking at my indemnification escrow amount. This $2.5 million figure stands out to me. The purchase price in this agreement is $5 million, so 50%. It's pretty high. And I know that I want to knock this down a bit, but I want to know what I've been agreeing to in other deals so that I have a good gauge of where to go with this. I can say, how does my indemnification escrow amount compare to my last 5 SPAs with a similar purchase price to this one? This example is really cool to me because I'm specifying what types of deals are going to be good comparisons here. I told it a few things. I told it, look at 5 SPAs that are my SPA, ones that I've actually worked on, and that have a similar purchase price. Again, purchase price, not likely to be something that you can find other than through looking through the document. Great task for something that has access to my document management system and can go through and look at those things. For me to do this manually, it's going to take me a long time. I'm basically just going to have to start opening SPAs that I've worked on, looking at the purchase price, and hoping that I land on one that is in a similar range to the $5 million in this agreement. It's going to take me forever. Now I can have our assistant go through, specifically look for SPAs that have similar purchase prices, and then pull the indemnification escrow amounts from them and compare what's in each of those agreements against the agreement that I'm working on. And I'm getting analysis and output quickly without having to do all of the labor involved in finding the sources. So I get good comparisons from places that I care about, and I get the information that I need in order to mark this agreement up. So you can see it's running multiple searches. It's finding both the purchase price and the indemnification escrow amount that's in my agreement, and then it's finding documents that have similar purchase prices, extracting those escrow amounts, and it will provide me with a useful output that I can action on. Let's look at what it gave us. It's given me a nice tabular output. I didn't specify that I wanted this in a table. It just understood that this would be a useful format for me, and it really is. I could have specified table, but if I don't specify how I want the information, it's going to give me what it thinks is going to be most useful. It also gave me, interestingly, the percentage of the purchase price. This is really useful to me. This is how I think about my escrow amount. This is how I knew that 2.5 million, 50% of the 5 million was high. And so it found deals that are of a similar size, pulled the amounts, and then calculated the percentage for me. Here I see that we're usually in the low 20% range. There's one outlier. And I'm getting a summary that's saying the same thing. Average around 25% of the purchase price. It's also giving me citations to all these agreements so I can verify what the amounts actually were. And then I can take some action. I know that a lot of times I'm around 20%. So I can just say, make my amount 20% of the purchase price. I don't have to do the math on what 20% is. I can just give that to the associate, let it run and handle this for me. So now it's revising the agreement. It's changed my amount. Now I know I'm in line with what we've been agreeing to recently, and I'm good to go. Let's look at another example. Now I'm looking at my definition of losses. So this is an important definition to me as a seller. Basically, my indemnification obligations hinge on what this definition is. So I want to make sure that I have a really robust definition that benefits me as the seller. I can look at this and I can just say, make my definition of losses more seller friendly based on my recent SPAs. This one's really cool to me because this is exactly what I'm thinking. I want this to be more seller friendly. I want it to be based in my precedent, what I've been agreeing to. I can give that word for word to the associate. It's going to go through the same process that I would have to go through in order to accomplish this. For me to do it, I'd have to read my current definition of losses, understand what it says, find recent SPAs, look at those definitions of losses, understand what each of them said, and then compare them to this definition, specifically looking for ways that I can make this more seller friendly. So this is really like a 8, 9, 10 step problem, something that I can give to the associate, and it figures out how it's going to go through and accomplish this. It's going to go through the same way that I would, created a search plan to find seller-friendly definitions of losses and recent SPAs. It's showing me how it's going to accomplish that. And then it's returning results. As it's doing that, then it moves into analyzing them, and then I get my output and analysis. It's telling me recent seller-friendly SPAs commonly include an exclusion of punitive damages, getting citations, so I can be sure that this is actually pulling from a relevant agreement and that the language that I'm getting is true to what that agreement said. Here it's telling me this is more seller friendly, and it's giving me a bit of a plan. Next step, wants to update my definition for me to include this carve out. It's already gone ahead. It's made this more seller friendly based in language that I've used recently, and I can just accept it. And I don't have to go through that process of figuring out what would make this more seller friendly, where do those documents exist. I just give it the instruction and I get the results. Now I'm going to pass it over to Tony, and he's going to talk a bit about how he's been using the associate in his work.
This is our form of commercial agreement over here at DraftWise, and I just received some feedback from one of my sales team members on how to improve this form with the goal of speeding up the sales cycle, getting a prospective client from seeing this agreement to then closing on the deal. So here is the feedback. This is an email from one of my colleagues here at DraftWise, and he tells me that he wants to speed up the sales cycle. In our commercial license agreement, please make these following changes. He lists out several bullet points that he'd like for me to address. Just notes, and we can use that information in order to update our sales contract. Here's our agreement. I'm going to tell my agent I represent DraftWise in the negotiations of this agreement. Here's feedback from one of my colleagues on the sales team. Please suggest edits to be attached based on his input. And we're just going to hit send. Right away, agent's acknowledging I'm there. Then what I'm going to do is cut and paste these feedback, drop this into the agent as follows. I might give the agent a little more clarity around what I'm doing. So the first is that there's trial period should be about 2 weeks. And then if there's a breach, and security notification should be provided in 48 hours. With respect to limitation of liability, our super cap is too low. Our insurance coverage might not be market. Then lastly, we are going to take a look at our SLAs. And if we violate our SLAs, the customer should be offered a credit as compensation. So we hit enter, and now we allow the agent to go forward and think about what it's going to do. So the first piece is the agent's going to be interpreting my request. And as you can see right away, I get some immediate feedback. It's going to tell me that it's going to find and edit these pieces of information we're looking to improve. Then it's going to suggest red lines on how to actually improve these terms. I'm getting a question here about, do you want a specific limitation of liability cap, or should I recommend market standard? Please specify the relevant insurance type if you want targeted market research. So great questions. This is building trust with me as the user. The agent is understanding precisely what I'm looking for. And then it tells me that it's located these clauses. So as you can see, there is a footnote here with respect to the trial period definition. We're looking to go from 3 weeks to 2 weeks. Agent's telling me the trial period is here. That is good. With respect to the super cap, hovering over the footnote, it's clear that the agent has identified the proper placement within which it's looking to edit. Now we get over to actually seeing what the suggested edits are. Keep in mind that some of these are pretty straightforward, especially the one around the trial period. The agent's telling me all you have to do is change that 3 to 2 weeks. We're going to accept that suggestion. When you get to more challenging issues like what should the limitation of liability be, or what should we increase our insurance premiums to, that's research that I, as an attorney, would have to dig into my DMS, or I would have to look into my precedent files, spend the time manually trying to filter through all of my past agreements that I've worked on, and then locate precisely where I may have agreed to higher insurance premiums or a higher limitation of liability. But the agent is doing that work for me. Another easy change that the agent makes was with respect to the breach notification issue. We are going to jump to that particular provision, section 8.1. That looks like a fantastic edit. We're going to accept that suggestion. And there is the edit made. What we're looking at is the agent doing all of this research for me rather than me having to do the research manually. Agent created a search plan. It's telling me what is market standard for limitation of liability and insurance coverage, precisely what I was looking for. Scrolling down, we can see the analysis that the agent took. It's recommending some query searches, recommending filters. Then it's automatically searching through some market industry research for me. It's identifying, here's the breach notification change. Now we are seeing from this research, well, the liability super cap is this, an insurance issue with respect to E&O or cyber data. Insurance should be increased from a 1 million to a 2 million limit per claim or aggregate. It's asking me now, well, please confirm if you want a typical higher cap. We are going to respond to the agent's question. As the agent is continuing to work, what it is coming back to me with is that $500,000 super cap contained in section 11.2 isn't sufficient. Agent suggests, based on its research, that we can go to a $2 million cap based on market standards within the industry. Moving on, with respect to the super cap contained in 11.4, it is suggesting that we bump this figure up as well from $1 million up to $2 million. Moving on to the insurance piece in section 15, the agent suggested some issues around changing some of the language. There are the edits to 15.1. And then moving down to particular coverage in 15.1, 15.1.2, 15.1.3, the agent is suggesting that we modify or increase these premiums. Similar premium changes are modified in section 15.1.2. Lastly, in this particular section, we're going to update the premiums in section 15.1.3. And as to the last piece, the SLA credits that I had identified or requested, the agent had free drafted some language for me, and this language came from a previous agreement that I've worked on. And the agent has told me that if the licensor fails to meet the service levels set forth in this schedule, licensee shall be entitled to a credit equal to a portion of the fees as set forth in Schedule 3 as a sole and exclusive remedy for such failure. Perfect identification of what the issue was. I did not have to formally type in what the changes should be. The agent looked at market standards as well as my precedent to identify language that might work. And the agent gave me a summary of the edits that it made. As you can see, these changes took a significantly shorter amount of time, and it cut down on the amount of manual research that I had to do from possibly an hour or more to the amount of time you saw here.
Now that you've seen it in action, let's open up a roundtable discussion. Before we turn it over to audience Q&A, I wanted to ask you guys a couple of questions about your experiences and your thoughts seeing users use it and using it yourself. First question I'm sure is on everyone's mind. Is this going to replace people?
My answer is no. What it changes is how lawyers focus their time. Specifically, they can now focus their time on the things that really provide value. Lawyers' value really comes from their experience negotiating deals, having seen many deals progress, also how the mechanics and the personal aspects of a negotiation progress. The value doesn't come from finding precedent, from locating the information that they need, or from manually marking up an agreement to transition a subject into a new agreement. The value comes from being able to make those judgment calls, understand how to leverage a negotiation in order to get a really successful outcome for the things that matter to their client or their organization. That's the value add of a lawyer. But until today, essentially, lawyers have had to spend a lot of their time spinning their wheels, doing a lot of that manual legwork to find the information, analyze it, compare it to recent deals, and then manually make changes into an agreement. That's not the value of a lawyer. Now a lawyer can offload that manual and often painful work to an AI associate and allow them to focus on the true value adds that they bring.
Something's going to change, so let me ask a modified version of that question. How is this going to change training, and particularly how junior associates are going to learn at firms?
In a lot of my conversations with different legal teams, different law firms at a variety of levels of career progression, people are saying that DraftWise is really helping them learn how to practice law, in particular, how to practice law at their firm. Already with the tools that we've been using, they've been able to gain access to untold amount of precedent that they never could before. They've been able to look through more examples of what their firm or their team has done in the past in a way that allows them to answer questions before they have to ask other members of their team, answer and learn about that particular area of the law, how the firm or the team wants to pursue those transactions. It actually opens up the amount of resources for them and makes it much easier to ask questions of it. Instead of needing to see 1-2 deals play out over the course of years, they can go through tens of deals relevant to their transaction using tools like DraftWise, learning more. And I think what we saw today with the agent technology is just going to make that even easier, because now it's not just allowing you access to the material, but it's having a back and forth conversation with you, answering your questions, teaching you and guiding you towards parts of your precedent that are particularly useful, parts of your standards that your firm wants you to know. I think certain tasks are changing with how lawyers will be able to gain experience. But what this technology today does is it makes it much easier for people earlier in their career to have the insights and knowledge necessary to meaningfully contribute.
I agree with Will. I think that's a great insight. And I've been practicing law for coming up on my 23rd year right now. And as a first year in New York City, it's gotten in a fast paced moving environment where you're trying to crank out M&A deal after M&A deal. You often didn't even have time to ask a supervisor a question about, hey, I don't understand what indemnification is. Can you help walk me through it, why it's important, and how to read it and understand it in a contract? So I think that with the agent, along the lines of what Will was saying, it's going to speed up just how intelligent you are. It is going to improve your practice at a much quicker rate because you are able to ask the question of an agent, hey, I don't understand indemnification. Please explain it to me. Tell me why it's important. Partner told me to insert XYZ. Show me how to do this.
Before we turn to audience questions, one more question for you guys, which I'm sure is on top of everyone's mind right now, which is, how do I get access to the beta program and try this out for myself?
So we are opening up a beta program in just a couple of weeks. Today, we've already got members of our customer base using what you saw today, giving us feedback, giving us the examples that you saw us talk about today. So please email sales@draftwise.com or reach out to James, myself, Scott, or Tony directly. We'd also be happy to get you on board. I'm very excited to hear your feedback in the future.
Now let's turn it over to audience questions. First question from an audience member. I want to upload a client term sheet, an information certificate, a template loan agreement, perhaps a suite of loan agreements, and have DraftWise prepare documents with red lines to the suite I provided, pulling information from the term sheet and the information certificate. Can your software do that? And if I recall correctly, I think a number of you guys on this call have used the software to do something similar. So let one of you respond to that.
I think that this is the exact reason why we created the agent and what it was built for. As you saw in my demo, what I did was I took our form commercial agreement that I used to negotiate with our prospective customers, and then I take sales feedback, whether it's in the form of an email or Slack notes, and I simply drop that into the agent, tell the agent what I would like them to do and how I would like to them update our form of commercial agreement, and then it does it for me. Again, this is why we built the agent. And with respect to this particular example, we need to test it, but I think the answer is going to be yes.
Awesome. Next question. I believe this is in response to Tony, your demo, where you showed a variety of citations and research related to insurance. So the question is, where do the citations come from? That little numerical number that appears, where are those actually coming from?
What that did was the agent pulled from all of the precedent that I uploaded to the particular folder that I instructed the agent to take a look at. If, for example, I asked the agent, please tell me what sort of parameters around which I've previously approved insurance coverage based on past negotiations, the agent is looking at my precedent folder. It's seeing what I previously agreed to, and it's providing me with feedback on previously you've agreed to $2 million insurance coverage with respect to tech, or cyber coverage. Here is what we think is going to be market for your negotiation today. The short answer is it's looking at my past precedent.
There was a related question, which was, where are these precedents coming from? Can they come from Net Documents? And the answer is yes. We're a Net Documents partner. We've been a partner with them for many years and can integrate with your precedent there, as well as in iManage, as well as in SharePoint, and a variety of other solutions where you might store your precedent. Now, Will, this one's a question for you. Can you go into a little detail on how DraftWise deals with situations where an individual might be walled off from specific matters or clients, or a situation where a firm has a GP side team and an LP side team who are walled off from seeing each other's documents?
Yes, absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, one of the founding beliefs of DraftWise was that you need to be able to ground any use of this modern technology in your precedents, in your own firm standards. And that comes with the responsibility of treating those precedents, treating your documents safely, securely, and responsibly. Over the last several years, while we've been working with partners like NetDocuments, while we've been working with partners like iManage, we've also been developing a very secure platform with SOC 2 certification, ISO certification, guaranteeing that we are taking care of the files responsibly, but also responding to how our customers want to use it in collaboration with our internal access walls, any kind of checks that they've made. And so we've built into DraftWise the ability to define exactly what gets on the platform down to the matter or client or doc ID level. You can block content from ever getting onto the platform and being made available. So you can say, these have been walled off entirely from use by AI, for example. Do not bring these documents onto DraftWise. We also have built in the ability to target specific teams with specific content and make sure that you're sharing it directly. So you can promote collaboration amongst teams in a targeted way as well. I think the most simple answer, though, is that if you use a document management system, we will automatically inherit any sort of access walls that you've got set up there. So users will not be able to see anything in DraftWise that they can't see in the original source DMS. That's the simplest way that we handle this, is guaranteeing that we mirror those permission checks.
That's awesome. And going back to our original discussion of AI agents and why they matter, part of this is because what the AI Associate is an AI agent that's been trained to use tools like SmartDraft, like the original product that we've served law firms for the past 5 years. And SmartDraft is the most powerful way to research your internal precedent, to surface best practices. And one of SmartDraft's features is enforcing the controls you already have in place, matter restrictions, client-specific housing of data and rules. All of those things are continued to be respected and will be consistent with those when you access them through the agent. Just a few more questions left. So can we direct DraftWise to find precedent in a specific folder on the DMS? So the answer is yes. DraftWise has a variety of strategies it can use for you to direct it to things in the DMS. You can point it to specific matters. You can point it to specific documents. You can even come up with higher level rules for how you want to target documents in the document management system, such as documents with these words in the name, and also maybe these contract types, SPAs, LPAs, or even specific folders on the document management system. So the answer is there's a variety of easy ways to target, and also as you come up with more complex strategies, the platform is built to scale to those strategies and help you target those too. Another question here, can it analyze a red line? Assume it's a 90-page merger agreement. Say you have a track changes file, can it help you evaluate those changes? And if so, can you suggest a few things that it's capable of in this workflow?
I'm smiling here at this question because this is precisely what we built the agent for. And when you're sitting at your office at 8 p.m. at night and you receive comments from opposing counsel on your 90-page merger agreement, and you're expected to turn that document back to the partner by 9 a.m. the next day, you know that you have a long night ahead of you. But the answer is yes, we can summarize a merger agreement, summarize updates that come across in track change form. And one of the highlights I see in the question is the agent's going to present the differences or the track change summaries in a form that's easy to read. So one of the features that I love using as I was testing this out every day is the agent's going to provide you with a summary in table form saying, here are the changes that were made. Here is previous documents that you've agreed to that change, and here are additional changes that we've not previously agreed to. The agent will take that even a step further to say, if you don't accept that position because you've never agreed to it before, here's a suggested alternative in order to hopefully get opposing counsel to agree to your compromise.
That's exactly right. We built this exactly along the workflows that people have been using our software for 5 years. And we thought that the key goal here with the agent was to take the latest in technology and continue driving towards the same outcomes we've known about, that users have talked about. Another question? Do you have a document that outlines use cases across the various practice areas that are relevant here, outside of the commercial team who manages contracts, outside of ACE, which Scott's illustrated, VC financing, private equity? The short answer is it's a work in progress. We are creating a number of case studies. We are creating a number of materials for the teams at law firms who actually implement these solutions and train people to help you understand the best places to apply this. We have some documentation, but it's a moving target with how the technology has advanced. Part of the beta program is identifying more use cases and more best practices for implementing this. And now the last question for today. What shortcomings or missing features are our law firm customers telling us they need to see that we're working on for the next generation?
I think it's a great point that James just mentioned to emphasize that technology continues to develop, features continue to come out, we continue to push the envelope on what we can do with this technology. We're getting a lot of requests. Can you make more documents available for my searching, not just the couple million you got right now? Can you go even higher, make it look over my entire firm enterprise knowledge set of information? We're also going through trying to make it even easier to define what generates lists of issues for contract review, how we can display that information and partner with the agent, and what the agent might even be able to resolve without you needing to prompt it. How can it do that automatically and then give you the piece of information to review? We're trying to see what we can do ahead of time to make available for you as well. And then the third is just understanding how people want to interact with an agent as a close confidant and a collaborator within their working environment. This is a new way of working, and so people are trying to engage with it in different ways, and we are taking that feedback, building that into the tool, and then ultimately making it a more collaborative and a more powerful experience with people through this. People will continue to use the platform, continue to get feedback on it, and we'll shape that experience in the best way possible. If there's any particular features or things that you're excited about that you'd like to know, please also reach out. We want to make sure we're going into as much detail as possible on what we can do today, what we'll be able to do in the coming weeks, and then of course, what the world will look like a year or two from now. It's all very exciting for us.
We've been committed from the beginning on this suite of problems, helping you draft contracts, helping you leverage precedent, helping you understand market and take advantage of the rich history of work you've done with clients in service of future work with the same client. And the agent just represents another step in that direction. And I want to again emphasize the importance of the beta program that Will mentioned, which is this thing is incredibly exciting. It is already doing valuable, impactful work for a variety of use cases and practice areas. But the value of the beta program is getting in the hands of your lawyers and proving that it can do more and finding the points of improvement that we can add to it so that it can help you achieve greater impact in your organizations. I want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. I want to thank our panelists for joining the Q&A and showing us exciting demos. And remember to talk to your account manager or whoever you know at DraftWise if you're interested in this, if you have more questions, and if you want to get hands-on. So thank you, everyone, and have a great day.